I've always known I was different, that I perceived the world with a sharpness others couldn't understand. It's this clarity that made me sensitive to every sound, every whisper of the wind through the trees outside my window, and every scuffle of shoes on pavement. Yet none was more intolerable than the murmur that lived next door. It wasn't the sound of words, but a faint, constant, maddening whisper. Like the breeze through a narrow crack, it slid into my mind and made a home there, growing louder each night until I thought I might go mad. The old man next door was harmless enough, or so everyone said. He kept to himself, lived quietly, and only ventured out to tend to his garden in the early morning light, his gnarled hands working the earth as if it was a ritual. But I knew better. There was something wrong with him. He didn't seem to have friends or family. It was his voice, or rather the lack of it, that disturbed me most. He spoke to no one, yet I heard him. At night, a strange, low murmur seeped through the thin walls of our shared duplex, a whisper I could never quite decipher. At first, it was only an annoyance, a nagging sound that disturbed my sleep. I would wake in the dead of night, my heart racing, convinced that I had heard my name whispered from the other side of the wall. But when I pressed my ear against the cold plaster, there was only the faint hum, just beyond understanding, as if the old man was speaking in a language that no human tongue should know. I tried everything to block it out, stuffing cotton in my ears, playing music to drown it out, but no matter what, the whispers slid past every defense, filling my mind with their maddening presence. Soon, I found myself listening for them, leaning against the wall, trying to catch even a fragment of a word. But they made no sense. The whispers seemed to shift in tone and pitch, almost as if they were mocking my attempts to understand them. And through it all, the shadow beneath his door remained, dark and twisting, even when no light should have been cast. One night, as I pressed my ear to the cold plaster wall, I realized it wasn't the sound itself that bothered me. It was the shadow that accompanied it. Whenever the whispers started, a dark shadow would stretch across the gap beneath his door, flickering as if pacing back and forth. The shadow wasn't natural. It moved too erratically, stretching and shrinking in unnatural ways. I became convinced that something sinister was behind that door, something that wore the old man's face during the day, but revealed its true nature at night. I began watching him more closely, peering through my window as he shuffled to his garden each morning, his steps slow and deliberate. He always kept his head down, never looking up, as if he feared what he might see. Sometimes I thought I saw the shadow lingering behind him, clinging to his back like a second skin, darker than the dawn shadows around him. But whenever I blinked, it was gone, and he was just an old man, bent and frail. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers grew louder. They invaded my thoughts, even in daylight, twisting my mind until I could think of nothing else. I stopped going to work, stopped answering the phone. My friends grew worried, but how could I explain it to them? How could I make them understand that the old man was more than he appeared, that he was hiding something terrible just beyond that thin wall? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I devised a plan. I would confront him when the shadow and the whispering were at their peak. If he could give me an explanation, I'd let it go. If not, well, I would do what had to be done. I had to put an end to it, for my own sanity. It was a cold, windless night when I crept down the hallway toward his apartment. My hands were shaking, a cold sweat coating my skin. I could hear the whispering through the door, louder than ever before, the shadow beneath the door jittering like a trapped insect. My heart pounded, my breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. As I reached for the door handle, the whisper suddenly stopped. The silence was worse. I pushed the door open slowly, the hinges creaking. The old man sat in his armchair, facing the window, the pale moonlight casting his face in eerie relief. His back was to me, his thin shoulders hunched as if he was listening to something far away. The shadow seemed to twist unnaturally, cast not by him, but by something else, stretching across the room like a gaping maw. The whispers though silent now, seemed to linger in the air, a breath just on the edge of hearing. What are you?" I stammered, my voice sounding small in the stillness. The knife in my hand felt heavy, its blade cold against my palm. He didn't turn to face me, but a smile curled on his lips, a smile that seemed too wide, too knowing. "It's the quiet that drives you mad, isn't it?" he said in a voice that was not his own, a voice that seemed to come from the shadow itself. It echoed through the small room, crawling across my skin like a swarm of insects. I felt a chill run through my spine, my hands trembling as I clutched the knife. It's you. You're behind it. The shadow. The whispers," I accused, stepping closer, my voice gaining strength as my fear boiled into rage. "You think you hear whispers," the shadowy voice replied, mocking. "But they are your thoughts, your fears. I am only the reflection." It was too much. I lunged at him, the blade glinting in the moonlight, and the shadow seemed to surge around me, enveloping us both. The old man didn't resist. He simply smiled, his eyes reflecting a terrible understanding as the knife found its mark. His body crumpled in silence, but the shadow remained, writhing around my feet. For a moment, there was peace. No whispers, no shadow, only silence. I dragged his body into the basement, hiding him beneath the cold stone floor, sealing my secret away. I worked quickly, my breath coming in ragged gasps as I piled the bricks back into place, burying him beneath the earth. The quiet soothed my frayed nerves, and I convinced myself that it was over. But it was not. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard it again, a whisper. Soft at first, but growing louder, more insistent. My heart thudded in my chest as I recognized the words, distorted but unmistakable. "It's the quiet that drives you mad, isn't it?" I stumbled out of bed, pressing my hands to my ears, but it was no use. The whisper was inside my head, crawling through my mind like a living thing. And the shadow, it seeped out from beneath the basement door, darker than the night itself, shifting, writhing. Desperate, I threw open the basement door, but as I reached the spot where I'd hidden the body, there was nothing but cold stone. The old man's corpse was gone, but his whisper remained, louder than ever, a mocking chant that echoed through the walls. It followed me everywhere, outside, in the daylight, at my job, and even in the mirror's reflection. I saw his shadow at my feet, moving against the light. I tried to run from it, but there is no running from a shadow. There is no running from what hides inside your own mind. Now, as I write this, I know that the whispers have consumed me, that the shadow has become a part of me. They will find me soon enough, and when they do, they will ask why. But how can I explain it? How can I tell them that the true horror was not the shadow or the whisper, but the silence that waited behind it? If you are hearing this, remember one thing: beware the quiet, and beware the shadows that dance just beyond the edge of your sight. They are more than they seem, and they are always listening. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the night. If you enjoyed the hunt and want to see more adventures, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you want to stay updated on all our midnight mysteries, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. Your support helps us uncover more secrets and bring you thrilling new content every week. Until next time, stay curious and keep hunting. This is The Midnight Hunt, signing off.